Okay, welcome everybody. Hopefully y'all can see me okay. And you can hear me okay. So I know it's been a little bit since I've been online to talk to y'all about vouchers. So we're going to talk about several different things. So I'm going to give you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about, and then y'all can skip to the parts you want, especially those that are going to be showing up late. First and foremost, you can find a chat window to chat with me. I ask y'all to please hold off on making the comments to let me get through at least the first few minutes here. And so if you're on a phone, laptop, or a tablet, you'll need to find a way, and there should be a chat window for you to chat with me at a later point here. Second to that, we'll be talking specifically about the housing emergency housing choice vouchers. Some big things just happened about a day ago, and I've had to read a great deal of legislation and other things to figure out what it was and why it's happening the way that it is now. Two, we're going to be making announcements about my other channel, YouTube channel, and that's for those of you that have interest in minerals, rocks, gems, and so on. Okay, this video will cover a wide range of topics. It's not going to be strictly vouchers like any video. Once you talk about 15 minutes, then it rolls into different things, and then anybody that has questions regarding anything Section 8, you can ask me that, at that point, we'll be discussing that probably 30 minutes. Hello, Jasmine. How are you? I see you came in early, and a few others have. So the big announcement is this. We all talked about it earlier in January, maybe February, that the United States government had allocated billions and billions of dollars for emergency housing vouchers. Well, they passed everything now. That stuff has been sitting. The money's been collecting dust in different banks in different cities, and they finally have allocated. And so the original 70,000 vouchers we were talking about, most have been dispersed, but now they have dispersed all those billions. And so what's happening right now as we speak is every housing authority and continuum of care, for those of you who don't know what continuum of care is people, when you're not homeless, you get vouchers from the housing authority. When you're homeless or you're about to be homeless, you get them from continuum of care or housing first. Now the market is flush with cash, and so you'll start to see housing authorities reopen. You'll see shelters and other things start to reopen, and they now have the ability to issue emergency housing vouchers. That is the whole deal, and they've got a lot of money, more than I've ever seen. Matter of fact, the client I spoke with today, she lives out in San Diego. That city is already rolling out tremendous amounts of money. Now, it doesn't mean that just because you get a voucher, the game is over. We still have a housing shortage. We still have an overheated market where landlords are wanting way more rent than they deserve in some cases. And of course, the housing shortage and people being evicted. So there's still things going on. I'm just saying for a temporary while through the Christmas season, we're going to find that vouchers will be flowing as thick as wine is right after our president gets elected. You know what I'm saying? So why is that good news? Well, it's good news because it's going to be easier than ever to get a voucher in many different ways. But they are looking for specific types of people. Now, a lot of you have it in your mind, hey, I'm low income. Let me go down to the housing. Let me get one of them vouchers real quick. Nope. Look, so what we're going to talk about is PHI 2021-15. This is a notice, and this was a special attention of directors of HUD and regional field. And I'm going to give you that report. It's a director's report. It's very long. It's close to 60 pages, and it was signed by the president. So as a technicality, they don't like making director's reports available to you. I'm going to make it available, okay? When I'm done talking about this, then I'll show you where the link is, and then y'all can read it at your own time and pleasure to do so. So those that have a high propensity or likelihood of getting this type of voucher from the housing authority or continuum of care would be people that are at homeless and at risk. So let's look at some of the definitions, and I'm looking at this while I'm speaking to you all. Bear with me a moment. All right, so I'm looking at Formula A and Formula B. So they're going to be making adjustments. Virtually anybody that's homeless or has been made homeless or is going to be imminently homeless within 30 days has a high likelihood of getting this. Those also at high risk or combination of being homeless. In other words, if you are a domestic victim, if you have been somehow injured or hurt by a person you care about, and other factors. That's being a senior, being a disabled person. That brings high risk. And if you combine that with homelessness, that would put you in Formula B. Now, they are being very, very clear about this, that they intend on including all races. So this will not be subjugated just to plain white men or white women. This is to include all nationalities and Indians. And trust me, when it comes to the housing authorities, this country has not always been very equal about that kind of thing. Okay, so what I'm saying is this: they have to, by federal law, ensure there's an even mix. So if you are a African American living in a predominantly white area, you have a high likelihood of getting this. Okay. If you live in a small town rather than a big giant city, you have a high likelihood of getting this. In fact, I would suggest to a lot of you, if you are near homelessness or considering homelessness, go to the smallest town you can find. You have a better chance of getting this emergency housing voucher there than you would sitting in the middle of LA or New York, the Bronx, and so on. So, in fact, you would do yourself a justice as a senior, a homeless person, a domestic violence victim, a disabled person, a college student, so on, to address small towns. And especially when you can put yourself as adversity or diversity, meaning that I am black, I am white, I am Hispanic, Latino, Asian, and going to a town where you know the demographics would be completely flip of what you are. In other words, an Asian person going to an all Hispanic community, a Hispanic person going to an all white community, and so on. You see my point? What you're doing is you're kind of playing with the demographics, but what you're really doing is you're kind of manipulating this legally to kick you out of voucher. Look, put everything on the table. I don't care if you're a Christian, if you're a Buddhist or a devil worshiper. It doesn't matter to me. It is not worth living outside under a bridge. Go get one of these vouchers, but do it the right way. Okay, folks? Now, we talked about formula A's and B's. Now, some of the secondary formula are going to be people. So you would want to also make sure you're meeting the extreme low income. So let's talk about ordinary people, okay, that are not minorities specifically. Let's talk about people that are just simply low income, extreme low income. All right, low AMI, area medium income. And if you take that and you take that over again to a smaller county, say 100,000 or less people living demographically there, and you combine that with being old, disabled, domestic violence, if you are a HOPWA client, which means HIV or AIDS, that you may be dying from that or other issues, then you mix that special preference with this, and you're likely they will kick it out. So, in other words, you're really trying to get to communities where you're the odd one out, as ridiculous as it sounds. And it fits in perfectly with how convoluted that all this really has ever been, is that when you'd have to do something that bizarre. But look, if we know the rules, then you only need to adjust course to ensure that you're doing this right. What is going to be the level or number of vouchers? Well, we know they're going to be doing minimums of 25. That's a very small number, but I imagine they're going to do as many as they can until they run out of money. How long do I believe that money is going to last? Probably a good while. I think this is really a Christmas gift from the United States government, but you should expect fully that this program will dry up and become more convoluted each month that it's around. So I would imagine by January, if you haven't got the goodies by then I think you know what's going to happen. So, this is the kind of behavior I expect out of presidents and Congress when they want to be reelected. That's just kind of been unusual. They're doing this just conveniently very close to Christmas. So just consider that. I'm sure there's no correlation, but I'm just saying. Okay, so let's take a look at a few comments, see if anybody's got any questions here. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes you guys hammer the hell out of me for an hour and a half for questions. So we'll just take a look. So it looks like Mary said something in Spanish. Look, I'm going to be talking with a lady tomorrow, and we're going to figure out a way now to have a person that will be able to, A, translate the videos, and two, I'm trying to figure out a way to get her live with me in the video. She's in California. She speaks Spanish perfectly. We're working on this. The breakdown is simply this. I'm the only one that knows what I know. She doesn't know what I know, and so I've not figured out how in the world we're going to communicate if somebody were to book a consult and spoke only Spanish. I'm a bit surprised that the Hispanic community does not have a child or a grandchild that speaks English that couldn't call, book the appointment, and then be with it. I would figure they would have done that by now. But as at large right now, the Spanish and Latino community has not addressed me, and I've yet to come up with a great solution. So I am working on that, and I apologize. If you are Asian or Hispanic or African American and I don't speak your language, I apologize. I'm doing I'm doing as much as I can. I live in Houston, 20 years. I like to think I know a lot of Spanish words, but it's not enough to communicate adequately. And again, I apologize for that. So let's move on. Lakeisha Bridges, Charlotte Housing Authority. Section 8 has been closed for years. That is true. And what you're going to see is pop up. What I'm going to call these are pop ups. So you have housing authorities that have been closed for a decade, 8 years, 9 years. Well, what you're going to start seeing around the country is what we call a blue. If you remember Kmart back in the old days, that big blue light special, that means the housing authority is going to open temporarily for a couple of months and then they'll close back down just to give these out. And it's going to be pop-ups all over the country. I'm already starting to see it play out in Florida. I'm seeing it play out in California. Not only that, but in California, the Supreme Court's ruled that a lot of the homeless there must be taken off the street and housed by November 13th, or they will be in violation of the California Supreme Court. So a whole different scenario is playing out in that state right now. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but they've made the Supreme Court says the city of Los Angeles will either comply or there will be big, big problems for the people that run the housing authority there. Moving on, Kayla, good to see you again. Jasmine Victoria, this is way better than a stimulus. It is. I really do believe that making these housing vouchers available and pouring billions into it right now is going to help it. I'm just hoping that more landlords will consider Section 8 tenants and not believe all the bullshit that people say on TV. Not everybody tears everything home up. Not everybody's a crackhead and a prostitute. You have to thank these people that sit on TV, these men and women that sit on TV, dress up like Barbie dolls and talk bullshit. It's like they latch on to the one incident where somebody lost their mind and destroyed somebody's home that had a voucher. And so everybody, all these landlords, a lot of landlords I speak to, that's that one incident they put on TV and glamorize so they can make money has completely fucking ruined the connection that landlords have because they believe that's going to happen. I've had to talk to investors that have invested 20 and 40 million into 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 units, and they're under that impression because of the news. We've all seen what the news can do. We've seen what it can do politically. It can ruin lives and families. Well, it's ruining people in Section 8 because most people so ingratiated just to get a voucher. The last thing in their mind is burning a house down, doing drugs, and turning tricks. Nobody's thinking about that when they get a fucking voucher. That's what's absurd. But you got Nancy Lulu on Eyewitness fucking News. She's trying to make her 180,000 a year, and all she's doing is popping her fucking gums and making my job really hard to get you guys in stable housing. That's what makes me just sick with these news. It's no longer about news. It's not even honest anymore. It's rodeo clowns and Gucci. So, anyways, you can tell my blood's starting to boil just talking about it. But let's get back to the main factors here. So, Gail Resources. I want to bring up Gail again. She is a rising star in my channel. She does work very similar to what I do. She's an incredible asset to our channel, and I enjoy having her. There are a lot of people in this chat window. I don't have to pay anybody in China to come over here and make comments. These are actual real people that have been around my channel for a long time. So I don't have to ever fake anything I do. But I can tell you the Gail Resources is a good person to talk with. Ms. Devereaux, I believe I saw you last time in our live chat, Ms. Devereaux, because I remember you have that Cajun last name. We've been talking about that because I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Cajun, and I know that you may not be specifically a Cajun, but I thought I'd bring it up. Anyways, Brittany, how are you doing? Glad you're feeling better. Yeah, I'm feeling better, guys. Look, that fat face of mine, I'm starting to lose the weight, okay? Y'all see it now? I am starting to lose it. So I got my blood pressure back down from 220, and it now registers with blood pressure medication. I register as being normal. My blood pressure is 125. My heartbeat's normal, and I'm no longer at risk of a stroke because I damn near died at the optometrist's office when my blood pressure went so far over the line that I fell over and had an ischemic attack or mini stroke. Yep, blood clots in the brain. Anyways, moving on. Any sauce? Do you have any tips for finding a private landlord willing to help with Section 8? When it comes to landlords, one of the resources I use the most, this is going to be a little bit surprising for you guys. You'll probably going to think I will say, oh, go Section 8 or go to affordable housing online. Nope. Actually, when I want to find tenants or when I'm trying to get tenants into housing the quickest way, the biggest resource is the most unlikely. And it's actually Facebook Marketplace, where you go sell your sneakers and stuff that you have around the house for a little bit of cash. They put a housing market in there that just 10 to 1 beats the hell out of Craigslist. One, it's not filled with scams like Craigslist. I don't recommend Craigslist for anything unless you just want to get shot, ripped off, or whatever. But Facebook Marketplace housing section is an incredible resource. I actually was able to for a landlord, I was able to populate 500 units in 30 days. We were getting 100 people a day applying. It works both ways on Facebook. I'm not saying there's not scams there, but I got to tell you, the landlords, if you explain your situation and you can assure them diplomatically when you meet them that there's not going to be problems, you're not going to be loud and obnoxious, you're just here to use a voucher to live a normal life. A lot of landlords have been more than accepting, especially after this pandemic. A lot of landlords have always been under the belief they want market rate people that have a job that bring in income. Till the pandemic hit. Now, everybody with a job lost it, and these are the people that used to be employed, and so landlords almost lost their property. A lot of landlords lost their property trusting in people with jobs. What I'm getting from a lot of landlords right now is they are desperate to accept vouchers because they want guarantees they're going to get some of their money. The landlords who accepted the housing choice vouchers to start with, they made it through the pandemic unscathed, and they made all their mortgage payments. All the people that wanted to buy us out, I couldn't possibly accept Section 8 trash. Why would I ever take that shitty voucher? Now they're regretting it. They're eating their own words and regretting that because now they're coming to me, oh, well, I guess that would be the safer way. Yeah, I told you that already, didn't I? But you wanted to learn the hard way, and that pandemic taught you, didn't it? So sometimes, retribution's a bitch, and they learn from it. Anyways, moving on. Williams TV. I'm from California. How can I get a voucher? William, I appreciate it. That's a good loaded question, man. Talk about a good hour and a half conversation on how to get a voucher. The first step is you'd want to contact the housing authority in your specific county and find out whether or not the light bulbs are even on, if they're open, if they have anything to give. That would be the very first step. As far as you actually getting it, unless you know what I know and you've been practicing what I practice, which is reading over 1,000,000 page legislations, policy, procedures, federal regulation, operational manuals for housing authorities, there's not a simple answer to that, but I put it very simply, William. You need to have a lot of preferences. So if you're not old, disabled, have a bunch of problems, you either get those problems, make sure you actually meet the intent and the will of the federal regulation involved that would grant you that voucher, or you wait a lifetime. That's the reality. Do you need a consultant? Well, a lot of people get tired of waiting 15 years. So if you don't have 15 years of your life for you to figure it out, then book a consult. Save yourself a whole lot of heartache. That's what I tell people. Look, prior to this pandemic, I would tell people, I made 200 videos. The answers are actually in there, all over those videos. But here's the deal. Who the hell's got time to watch 200 videos when you got to be out your house in 2 weeks? You know what I'm saying? So that's the reality, guys. If y'all don't want to sit here and watch, 400 videos and then read all the garbage on Google and spend so much time chasing yourself in circles, hire somebody that already knows. You're not hiring me for 1 day of knowledge. You're hiring me for 20. If somebody told you to sit there and they've digested every piece of information that I've worked in every city and nearly every housing authority in America, that'll tell you right there, skip the line or wait the 15 years. So again, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm just telling you guys, look, how do you get a voucher? There's 2 ways. You get one by waiting 15 years, or you hire somebody that can skip you through it from anywhere from, if it's COC 35 days, if it's a small community and you're trying to get through it quicker, there's a possibility we can get them as early as 8 months to 3 years. Okay. If it's a major city, it can be longer. So that situation, William, it's a loaded question, and it changes every community that you're in. We don't know where you're at, what state, what kind of problems the community has, and if they're open. But due diligence, my friend. First, check and try. And if your efforts don't work out that way on your own knowledge, then try to seek out the right answers from people. Unfortunately, I can't go on too long about it. All right. Anyways, I'm sitting here to rant again. All right. So Miss Devereaux is giving me some claps. I appreciate you, Miss Devereaux. Gail Resources, those are great numbers, and you look so much more relaxed. Well, I got to tell you, man, as far as me being relaxed, I do feel relaxed, but I got to tell you, the cat dropped a bomb on the carpet today. And then we had, for you guys that don't know, I don't just rescue people from homeless shelters and under bridges. I rescue cats. I've got 22 of them. And today's been a wild day. One of the younger male cats has decided he is going to be a gang member, and he went gangster on my two females in the house. And we've had a wild ride today. And not only that, but one of them dropped the bomb on the carpet. So y'all know what that means, right? It means I've got to get out the cleaning stuff and otherwise smell it all day. So it's been a fantastic day. I'm a little bit relaxed, but I'm a little bit jacked up as well. Anyways, let them keep on moving. Shaquila Neal, how many blessings to you. I'm glad you're feeling better. I truly am, guys. I did have an event yesterday. It got pretty bad. I forgot to take my blood pressure medication for about 2 days. I saw spots about that big. I got on the heart monitor. My blood pressure had jumped from the 125 up to about 190, and that was the only cue I need. I now keep a prescription bottle in my car and almost every room in the house because that event right there could have became more serious. I started shaking. Look, there's no option for me to not take these pills. I've already learned that. I learned it yesterday when I nearly blacked out. Okay. And so, yeah, I am feeling better today, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm a pill popping man. I've got to have those pills, especially while I'm so fat, kind of fat right now. So, anyways, Brittany, would who would I call to address the manager disclosing my address to an abusive ex or in refusing accommodation? So that's two steps. Let's see. Who would you call? Well, if Brittany, you're already in the system, excuse me, let me have a sip of coffee here. If you're already in the system, Brittany, you would want to contact the housing authority, and then you'd want to speak with your caseworker. Every housing authority has housing specialists, and then one of those are assigned to you, and then you would want to make the complaint that way. So I don't quite know the context of the question. Somebody giving out your information on where you live, that's a violation of federal law under a federal program. That can be taken to regional or HUD DC, and heads and jobs will start to roll if we can adequately prove that they are in fact doing that. However, I do have a lot of clients that suffer from mental illness, and sometimes they don't see reality the way that it really is, and they are suspect of many things that aren't real. I don't believe that's your case, Brittany, but I'm just suggesting that if, as long as you don't have a history of doing making unusual accusations against the housing authority, usually HUD will take it very seriously. Moving on. Jervy Hatcher, I have a MS, so that'd be muscular dystrophy. I'm sorry, no, is that right? Multiple sclerosis. My correction. And I'm on Section 8 right now, but I want to move in with my girlfriend. Can I get a Section 8 again easily or go through the whole process again? Well, Mr. Hatcher, considering what you have and considering possibly your situation, I don't know the degree to which you have MS or a lot of things about you. I don't really know your case file. I know that's a pretty serious diagnosis. Um, I would say even if we had to start from point one, you would be a probably very high consideration to them. I don't know the size of the city where you are. I mean, there's a lot of factors missing from that. I would really need to talk with you, but if you did it yourself, it could take a while. I mean, if I worked on your case, it'd probably take a lot less. That's just reality. I know what I'm doing, but um, can I just reopen that and say, hey, hey, we hadn't seen you in a couple of years. Why don't we give you a voucher again? No, that's probably not going to happen. So yeah, I would need to know a lot more about your case. Dana, how are you doing? Been 2 months. So done. Homeless would be easier. Nothing. Let me. Well, you know what? That's a wild comment, Dana, for a lot of reasons. Uh, Nothing about being homeless is a joke. Nothing about that's easy. Let me tell you something. I've got people dying. I've got whole families in the woods camping in tents that have nothing. There's nothing easy about that. There's nothing easy about another lady I know that's got MD. She's in a wheelchair and living under a bridge. Seriously. Nothing easy about that. There's nothing easy about getting a bologna sandwich from a shelter that don't give a shit about you and being kicked out on the sidewalk when it's 99 degrees. You've got lots of options, Dana. You just got to change the way that you're viewing this. You guys let this stuff get the best of you and you let it get inside your head. That's where you'll reach a point where you say, fuck it, but you haven't seen the devil yet. Not till you hit the bottom. The problem is when you guys let this run too long and you truly do become homeless and you're under the bridge, it's not go the trip to the shelter to be truly broke without anything doesn't take hardly any time. That can happen in 30 days. For me to drag your ass from under a bridge to unravel the mess to bring you from out of that homeless situation back up could take years. I would advise you to not let that run to that point because it only takes a month to get you there, but it can take years to bring you up out of it. And a lot of people never end up leaving the street. That's another absurd part. And also if you have a genetic inclination where you've never drank or did drugs in your life and you've tried some of that stuff out there, you could end up being genetically one of those people that run off and end up being a crackhead and a prostitute for the rest of your life. You didn't even realize you had a genetic disposition for drugs. I've watched good, clean people hit the street and then end up being ruined for the rest of their life. So many things can happen. It's not easier being on the street. It's a death wish. It's horrifying, and a lot of people give up. A lot. Don't do it. Moving on. Gale Resources says it's like having 22 toddlers. Yeah, having 22 cats is definitely WWF. We get down and shake down around here. I've got cats popping out my hair like popcorn in the middle of the night. It's a wild ride. I've got a mixture of wild, tame, and yeah, man, I'm running my own petting zoo here, and it's getting difficult. But I love them. I love them just like my difficult clients. Ms. Devereaux, take your meds. Yes, I'm going to take them. And let's see. Brittany, yes, already in. Brittany, oh no, there's a voice in the mail. Oh no, there is a voice in the mail that was sent to me. That's interesting. Mr. Hatcher says, oh damn, what was I? That's what I thought. Kay, the kindergartner, did your series on getting housing for non-Section 8 PHP RRH elect have any more sections than 6? Well, I started that, but I fell out with a health crisis, and I'm thinking about revisiting that series I was doing. But I sure got a lot of grief about it. Some people enjoyed it. Some people just didn't like it. I'm considering going and doing a few more of those. Yes. But you're right. There were only 6. I think possibly the art was bad. So people were like, well, what is this? They didn't quite understand what the videos were about. Moving on, William TB. So if I book an appointment with you, how long will it take to get a voucher in Los Angeles? Well, William, I have to pull out that crystal ball in the closet. I'm going to get some energy crystals. And how long will it take, man? In LA? Never. In fact, I wouldn't even bother booking a consult if it's LA. There's 200,000 people on a waiting list, so it would take you about 60 years before they'll issue a voucher in LA. My suggestion, William, is that you consider other counties that are outside of LA and Orange. Look, there's a reason why all those people in Skid Row. There's a reason why they can only give, if you were homeless there's a reason why they can give you a bed ticket for 1 day a year. Because there is no housing left. There's nowhere to put people. It's the worst housing crisis in the entire country is in LA, and you would be absolutely wasting your money and time. So that's honesty for you, brother. I'm turning your money down because there's nothing we can do about LA. Nothing. My recommendation would be other counties. If you want to explore that concept, I'm happy to do so. We've had plenty of success in other areas, but LA, no, that's not even worth trying to deal with anymore. In fact, I'm going to probably quit taking clients from LA and Orange because the reality of it is over there, everybody knows what's going on, but they want to continue to live there. And look, people that have jobs can't even get a place to live out there right now. It's that bad. So, yeah. Any sauce, the system can be overwhelming. Of course, but that's one of the things about this. I've had 20 years of practice of being overwhelmed. overwhelming amount of stuff to learn and to understand. Overwhelmed by my clients that have all kinds of issues, everything from schizophrenia to paranoia to other disabilities, and they tend to overwhelm me on the phone during consults. Sometimes these things go bad. The thing about it is, when y'all consult with me, my job is to make it underwhelming for you. To help you cut through all the bullshit that comes with this. Anybody that's actually really spent the time and salt to look through all the different things that you would need to learn to be successful with dealing with getting a voucher outside of just pure luck would realize it's a lot of work. And then that's compounded, it's really compounded by this pandemic making things extremely difficult. Any sauce, the system can be abusive and discouraging. Well, one of the things, one of the things that I warn my clients about is you really do have to be able to let things slide off of you. And I realize not everybody mentally is wired that way, but until you're able to deal with adversity, no's and condescending and rude people, that's a big part of what the housing authority is to the public. They can be ruthless. Thing is, they're words, and just like when you were a child, sticks and stones won't break my bones. Well, yes, they do. We're human, and we're always affected by words. But if you know beforehand what to expect, if I teach you how to deal with adversity in order to get these vouchers, then the rule should be that you should sleep comfortably and stop worrying, because our only goal is really to get your housing voucher and to get you into a place. It's not to sit there all night, stay awake, and get angry and sad and upset of whether or not the housing worker treated you fairly. Who gives a shit about that? You're not there to be friends with these people. Our only interest is getting what we need and then waving bye to those people, never dealing with them again outside of whatever contract policy and rules that you need to do. So that's the thing. I have to refocus a lot of you guys' attention on what the real goal is. It's not about complaining or being comfortable. Can you please turn up the air or turn on the heat kind of deal? It's about getting what we need and getting the hell out of there. If you're out there, you're playing in a field of bees, you don't want to get stung, then get what you need to get out of there and get on with your business. I find in principle, if you're upfront and honest to people about how shitty the system really is and prepare them for the experience, then they're able to deal with this the best that they can and get through it. Okay. So I'm sorry that you've been mistreated, but that's a reality for everybody. Nobody really does perceive dealing with the housing authority as a good experience. For some, it's quite damaging mentally for them. But if that's what's required to get you a home, then that's what must be done. Life's full of adversity. We just have to deal. Moving on. Erica, I was Mary Poppins before I lost my place to You were Mary Poppins, huh? You got me, Erica. You were Mary Poppins before I lost my place to live and ended up exactly as you just described. Well, you know what, Mary Poppins, we're going to have to close that umbrella, bring you back to earth, and we got to get the situation done. Now, I realize you've been floating around and life was fantastic at some point, but hey, haven't we all been through some kind of shit with this? A lot of you guys don't realize this, but before I got where I am, I actually spent 10 years on those streets. I love it when a client gets on the phone. Well, you don't know shit about life. Oh my God, please help me. God help your soul. Look, honey buns, at 16, I left home. I crossed the country with nothing. I wasn't staying at the Hilton, okay? I was staying with shelter. I was out there with the winos. I chose to be out on those streets. 10 years, okay? I knew the system. I set up in libraries. I rotted up in the McDonald's trying to go to sleep in ERs. So I've been down that road. I've already walked in a lot of you guys' shoes, especially when I talk to homeless people and they talk shit back to me. Hey, partner, I've done it longer than you did. And I survived in the time when homeless shelters didn't care. That's back when they put, back in the, you go back another 20 years. That's back when they gave you bread and some soup. There wasn't no slice of pizza and a fresh roll of socks. So I do truly know. I do know the game. And I didn't replicate that in one city. Like a lunatic, I crossed the country thinking it was going to be better in every state. Look, I went from Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lake Charles to Jackson to Memphis, Memphis up to Seattle, Washington, crossed from there, went over to Chicago. Look, I've been spent about 8 months San Francisco. Oh, let me tell you. So yeah, I've walked it. I'm not just talking the talk. I walked it. Okay. Could I do it now? Hell no. Well, no, I probably could. And I would be pretty good at it. But would I really want to? Hell no. That's miserable. It's miserable. Nobody wants to spend their days wandering around, and every day you got to line up for a meal at a homeless shelter to be treated like shit. Look, you'd have a better opportunity of feeling better about yourself at a dog pound than you would dealing with the shelter employees. It's like letting the lunatics run the madhouse. A lot of housing authorities are actually the employees or former homeless people. So, what do we do to make everybody feel better? Let's hire a bunch of people that are former drug addicts that are psychopaths that have no emotional understanding of anybody, and then let them run the building. That's the perfect way to do things. That's what shelters really are. A ride straight to hell. Anyways, let's get back on topic here. Yeah, you guys have me thinking back to the old days. Oh, Jennifer Hamilton, I need you from Massachusetts. Well, Miss Hamilton, I dealt with Massachusetts before, and I continue to do it. I'd say roughly 15% of my clients are from Massachusetts. A big proportion are from New York, New Jersey, and California, obviously. But Massachusetts is a tough state. I definitely rank them on the pain in the ass scale of around 70%. But I got to tell you, the system is not so bad out there. It's just when you're trying to, there are certain parts of Massachusetts that are just a disaster. And they have some of the most bitter people I've ever met at housing authorities. I've called several of them, and I've got to tell you, the attitudes that the people and the attitudes at some of the housing authorities, it's a lot like talking to a jailer. I just don't know how you end up in life working in a place like that and hate everybody so intensely, but you're in charge of vouchers of all things. So I don't know, crazy. All right, Andy Sauce, I'll be booking with you soon. I look forward to it, Ange. Let me know who you are. That way I'll know in your comment section. You know what, guys? Your YouTube names don't often match your booking names. If y'all don't tell me who you are when you book me, I'm not going to remember you in these comments. Just remember that. Some of you pick weird names. Oh, I'm the Blue Cat Lady Moonleaf. And then you book me, and you guys expect me to know who you are. You got to tell me your YouTube names when you book me. But yeah, I look forward to it. Dana, had the same health issues plus all the stress. Save dog, special needs. I admire anybody that would. I admire anybody that can get out here, have an insufferable life, have so many challenges and adversity, and still have time to help other living and breathing things. If y'all know anything about me besides the fact that I care what happens to people that are homeless or about to be homeless or senior or disabled, you know that I care about animals as well, very much so. So I admire that quality in anybody in my channel. Um, Stop gaps can happen. Yes. California help. You know what? That would make an excellent sign. California help. California's a hot mess, man, except for northern parts. And then we had to exclude San Francisco or the Bay Area. But yeah, it's a hot mess right now. They let the homeless population build up too much around the coastline. Now it's grown to 20 times that of New York. And it's taken the intervention of the California Supreme Court. And they still have not actually rolled out the mandate to get a lot of those people off the streets. Even as such, there is actually nowhere to put them. So we're back to square one of trying to house the homeless in hotels and keep that situation under control. I'm still, let me tell you something. Earlier this year, January, February, March, I was moving a lot of people from California to Nevada. Now Nevada's full. I'm moving people from Nevada to Oklahoma, okay, and Oregon. And of course, I'm sure those states are starting to tremble a little bit and think, well, gee, could you send them somewhere else? It's getting hard. We're playing musical chairs around this country right now. The homeless are migrating, and what I mean by the homeless, man, I mean anybody that's struggling with housing. I don't just everybody's got the word homeless and some crackhead under a bridge is a picture in their mind. That's not what I mean when I say homeless. I mean people that are 30 days from being evicted. I mean people that are about to be put out tomorrow. People that have been put out last week. People that have been surviving the first 2 weeks in their car. Those that have been joined the Bible program, the local shelter. I mean everybody in between. I don't just mean the people you see on TV. Just to be clear about homelessness, we're all a minute from homelessness. What would happen to me if I had a stroke? You think I have anybody out here who's going to take care of me? this house and everything I own would be auctioned off like a hot sale, and I'd be left in the ditch with a wheelchair with no way to speak. Okay. I don't put the care of myself and the trust of any human being, especially family. But what I am saying is always prepare, that way. And I have prepared. I'm not going to leave my care into anybody. My same thing with my cats. So they'll be taken care of. All right. Anyway, let's move on. I'm just rattling now. I was homeless as a teen in Memphis back in the day. Let me tell you something. Memphis is a tough city. A lot of good people there, man, but that is a tough city. I crossed through there for a little bit, stayed at the Union Gospel Mission. You'll probably know exactly what I mean. And the reason that rolled off to my tongue that easily is because when you tell them the truth, you don't have to think about it. Gentleman Hampton, how can you help me? How do I book you? See, I'm sitting here talking about booking and consults and all this stuff, but I haven't given y'all one single link to do so. I don't know if y'all can see the description down there, but I'll go ahead and give y'all some information about me. And I'll let y'all be the good judge of whether or not I'd be good for you and whether I can do what I say I can do. The first link is going to be how to book me. So I'm going to copy that right now into this chat window. If you can't find it there, then you can find it when the video is open. It's going to be in the description. Now, the second one I'm going to give you, if you want to look at our website, we rank not only number one on Google, we also rank number one in the United States on Google. So Google trusts me enough to outrank me against other big companies. You type in Section A consultant, I'm number one. Hell, half my web page is ranked number one for that, many other words. Second up, you want to look at reviews. I think we're probably reaching around 100 at this point. And no, I don't need to pay anybody to do this. That would be silly. But anyways, you're welcome to look at the reviews. People say whatever they want to say. And let me encourage you guys. Look, if you hate what I do, you don't like me, my voice annoys you, go leave me a 1 star. If it makes you feel better, do it. It does not bother me. In fact, you can get the whole family to join in and give me nothing but 1 stars in that review thing. And I really honestly I don't care. I'm not that kind of man. I can't be affected that way. So my life is not contingent on whether or not I get reviews. I appreciate them, but there will never be a point where I will mentally be dominated by somebody leaving a review. So anyways, if you want to leave a review for whatever reason and you believe it would be helpful to somebody else, that's fine. Otherwise, I don't care. Let's see. Fallen Dillard, Texas, multiple sclerosis. That's an automatic qualifier, Dillard. So I think that stacked with some other questions, I think that you have a very good chance. Texas is a good state right now. Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and I don't know specifically where you live, but Texas is not having a housing crisis. So my intervention wouldn't be that much work in your case. However, there are lots of counties in Texas that may not have the vouchers immediately right now, but it's definitely worth a look because Texas is not on the hot spot for housing as of yet. Unless you're going to try to go to Harris County, Houston, or you're going to go directly into the middle of Fort Worth or Dallas. Most of the other counties, we can get vouchers quickly. I've been trying to pull people now from California down here because their money would go so much further. I don't understand why anybody would want to live in a broom closet. I'm serious. The broom's on the left, the mop's on the right, and your mattress is standing up behind you. You close the door, and that's your apartment. That's what people do in New York and New Jersey and Boston. And even some cases in California, because housing is tight market. So if you ever get tired of living that way and like to, use your money a better way, Houston is cheap. All right, moving on. Found out I'm over income. Well, sometimes you got to just take a hit on those hours. Look, the thing about income is it only matters at the point of application, guys. So when you're applying at a housing authority, they're reviewing your application to enter you into the system to determine whether or not you get a voucher. Once that process is completed, it does not matter how little or how much, as long as you're not exceeding the total value that would exit you out the program. So what I find a lot of people do, especially seniors that move to Florida, they put their money, their savings and retirements in a trust, which a housing authority cannot look into the trust. They cannot see the administrator. And so thus they have money that's allocated to a monthly by an attorney, and it keeps them just under that line. That's why you've got seniors that have got $1 million. They hide it in the trust, and then they go live like they're broke in Florida. They do it quite a bit in Florida is a good example. So if you make a little bit more, then maybe you need to make a little bit less. Depends on what you want to do. Justin, sorry, give me a minute. Let's see. What's up, Jay? My first in-person appointment on Monday. Good, man. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I talk to people all day. Excuse me. Well, we didn't have a big crowd today, but that's all right. I don't think most people want to spend their time watching videos about Section 8 anyways, except for those that really want it. So this channel will never have 1 million viewers. I've already learned that. But hey, if you're a teenager, if you're a teenager, you dress up like a clown, set your hair on fire, you'll get 4 billion hits. If I try to go out there and save the homeless, I'm going to get 50 views. It's always been like that. It's comical. People put their priorities in the wrong places in life so badly. It's just wild. I was watching this other YouTube channel. This lady, she buys fake gems and jewels. She throws them on the beach and says she found them. She's got 1 million views. Look, my entire career, all videos combined, might have 1 million views. You say what people are, they're just not worried about the people they should be worried about. It's just silly stuff. All right, moving on. So, we were originally talking about the housing choice voucher, and I think we'll be closing with that topic. And so I think that it's time to make contact with housing authorities between now and November and December, because this is an ideal time to get the housing choice voucher. I would encourage y'all to take a look. I put the link also in the description. This is going to be the link for the actual manual. It's around 60 pages. Look, it's nighttime reading. I'm not suggesting you spend all day doing this, but you should at least understand the reasons. This is a director's report, okay? It's not a coloring book. It's not a toy, not an advertisement that the people want you to see. This is a director's report directly from D.C. in Washington, okay? It doesn't come up any higher other than the president's office. So the document is what it is. Now, what you do with it's your business. But what I'm telling you is in there, in so many words, they explain exactly what you have to say and do in order to influence the outcome of you getting one of these. Now, for those who can't read between the lines in that, I don't know how to help you, okay? You're either clever or you're not. But look, if somebody gave me enough to where I could figure something out, then I would be sure to do it. That's as far as I can go without violating the law myself, okay? Moving on. Linville says, I'm in Oregon, been on the list, called yesterday and was told will be a long wait. First thing we always learned with housing authorities, when you call them, the first thing you should always learn, let me make that clear to everybody. Let me get close up to the microphone. When you call the housing authority, your first expectation is, I'm going to call and I'm going to hear a rude and condescending person on the phone. Now you've established contact with these people. The second thing is you want to think in your mind before you make this call is when you actually start talking to the worker past that point, I expect to be treated like trash and a dumb person. Okay. And then the third thing, as you continue that conversation with the employees, is I expect nothing to happen and they're going to tell me everything's going to take a long time. They're not even going to give me a number. It's just going to be a long time. Look, if your car breaks down, do you go down to McDonald's and you talk to the person there at the drive-thru when they're handing out cheeseburgers and then listen and believe anything they say? No, of course not. The housing authority people are trained like little idiots. And the first thing they do in their preliminary training is train to say everything takes a long time. Because what did that comment get you to do? If you call the housing, look, hey, lady, it's going to be a long time. It's going to be years, possibly decades. So what do? You hang up and you think in yourself, fuck it, I don't even want to fool with it now, right? It did exactly what that you fell into the trap like everybody else does. The housing authority does. People do it for one reason. It made you give up and just go away. That's a symptom that a lot of white folks tend to have is they said no. I guess that just means no. Look, people, it doesn't matter what these people tell you, okay? Especially the idiots that first answer the phone. That's their job to make it seem like a pain in the ass. The point is, if you're 99, you're a senior, you've got cancer, you're about to die, and you're homeless, you were beaten by your husband last week, do you honestly think it's going to take 10 years to get a voucher? No. But you believe the lady that makes $6 an hour, that she just got through cleaning the toilet, but she picked up the phone and told you, hey, you know what? It's going to be 25 years before you get a voucher, and then you hang up and you believe the bullshit. That's what all of you guys do. You got to stop doing that, okay? She has no more control over that toilet she's cleaning 1 minute to the phone that she's answering that day. And trust me, that's what I really do think about housing authority employees. I know children that work at Taco Bell and McDonald's that have got a higher education than those idiots. Anyways, so you got me on a hot topic on that. Jasmine, does this mean if you have been deferred, you'll take a call maybe before 35 days? Not quite sure, Jazzy, what you meant by that, but well, if you get a referral, the one I'm thinking you're suggesting, Jazz, about the COC, yeah, then the time does go down to about 35 days for that type of voucher. Jay, I've watched your videos. I must say you are extremely informed. It takes time and reading and doing the work, but it's worth it. It is anything's like that, man. Think about somebody who wants to buy a home. Look at all the work, the time, and effort and stuff you go through just to do it, not including the time you took to save. But yeah, a lot of people have in their mind, oh, I'm just going to go down to the house door to get me a voucher, or I'm disabled, I deserve a voucher today. Well, let me tip you on something, guys. Everybody's old that wants a voucher, everybody's disabled that wants a voucher, and everybody's broke that's both of those things. So 95% of the whole pool is broke, disabled seniors. And then you enter that market. Well, hey man, I've got a missing leg, so you know what? I'm going to be number one on the list. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're nowhere near it. So you have to be more than one thing. That's the thing I've been telling you guys. If the housing authority issues a mandate that says, "Hey, these are the 10 things we're looking for," being one or two of them ain't going to do anything for you. Being 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 of those things help. If you're not bipolar and crazy this week, then you better you better become a bipolar by the time you apply. If the rules say we consider Sally we're going to give her that voucher a year quicker than anybody else because she's a domestic violence victim, then you better call your best friend and have them slap you. Okay. Let's just be real about this. If the rules tell you A, if you do A, B is the consequence of getting the voucher, then you better damn well invent the situation before you apply. So that's the thing about it. Everybody's old, broke, and tired. That's that's the whole list. And then the other half of the list are people that simply, oh well, I've got no money. I work at the cheeseburger shop, and I deserve that voucher. Oh God, you're definitely going to be last because you have no preferences and you just feel entitled. Well, that's half the waiting list. Well, that's why it's 100,000 in LA. People that got terrible jobs that just feel in principle that they can get them. Look, you gotta stack more preferences on there, preferred things they're looking for out of you. If you understand how that works, then you get these type of vouchers. That's what I've been trying to tell you guys for quite a while. It's not based on one thing. It is a spider web of things that could potentially be going wrong in your life that would make you high priority. There are ways the system can be manipulated. Okay, let's just say what it really is. That's what I do. I find loopholes and we jump through them together. We don't violate laws. We don't break any laws. We're just using the spirit of the law and the way it was designed. If they didn't want the loopholes to be there, then they damn well shouldn't have created them. Okay. That lady asked me today, well, I'm not breaking the law. Well, honey, I got two options for you. I can give you your money back, or you're going to find out the hard way when you call me from the payphone in the ditch and beg me. Oh, well, I guess now I'll ask Jesus for forgiveness. I'm prepared to bend the truth a little bit. I thought that was going to be your new tone. Look, guys, we don't have options like we used to. These are tough times. So if you're not willing to bend and same thing lawyers do. They find loopholes. That's what I do. I've made a career of it. I'm good at what I do. If you can't do it that way, you want to do it the most honest and Christian way to do this, then hey, I'll send you a postcard right under the ditch because that's where you're going to be. Okay, because they don't care. The housing authority doesn't care. They have no vested interest in this unless you are important to them and you have the particular preferences they want. And since we're talking about emergency housing vouchers, we already know what they want. So how many people will complain and whine about that, and how many people are going to be working on actually making sure they have those problems? You see my point? So I already really disclosed a lot of how that could be, how it's a game, and we're playing to win the game. I had a lady the other day. She said, "Hey Jay, why do you call it a game?" Well, it's simple. When you call the housing authority and tell you have a lottery, let me ask you a question. What is a lottery? Is a lottery not a game? Does it not imply that there are odds? It's a game, except the prize is you. The prize is the voucher. It's like going to the store and getting a scratch off. If the lottery, you pull the right lotto number, you do what? Get a voucher. It is a game. You are competing, and don't be so self-deluded, people, to believe you're not competing. This is a game, and you'll either play it better than the people that designed it, or the consultant, or you'll do it your own way and fail. I watch people fail all the time. Let me tell you something. I wouldn't have almost a month wait for people to talk with me if it didn't work. If I actually failed at what I do, I would have already had the feds at the door. Nobody's come to visit me because I do what I say I can do. Now, whether or not you guys can handle learning and participating in order to get these vouchers in the appropriate way and take my advice rather than argue with me, that's really what it comes down to. And y'all can check around YouTube and Google, and you'll always keep arriving back to me. Okay? Even the second largest creator of Section 8 videos on YouTube refers their clients to me. That says a lot, doesn't it? So, hey, there's only two ways to do it, your way or my way. And I know that's straightforward, but hell, I've been known to be that way because it does get a bit tiring because it's a simple way. A lot of you guys, I talk for 20, 30 minutes. We work on a case for about a week, and then you move on with your life. You get a voucher. Now, if you suffer from problems that make your IQ so low that you're unable to interpret information, or you have dementia and you're unable to remember anything we've talked about 30 minutes later, or if you have drug or alcohol problems that prevent you from acting normally, that display you as being a low functioning person, and you talk a bunch of trash to the housing authority people, then yes, they would not be inclined to give you a voucher, and you ruin your own case despite me trying. But I work with people that have very severe problems like schizophrenia. And if my schizophrenics, for God's sake, if my schizophrenic homeless people can manage to pull their own ass out of a ditch with me, then none of you guys that have the luxury of getting on this computer and chatting with me should ever complain. Oh, well, it took you 2 weeks. He said a week. Before you met me, it took you 15 years. Some of you 8, 9, 10, 20 years to still hadn't figured it out. I don't understand. I've been on there since 1981. Why has nobody called me? Well, there's a reason why. You still want to do it your way. All right, anyways. I have failed on my own. I will be reaching out. I'm an honest person. This country ditch. Yep, I tell you what, man, I got lots of flowers and daisies in the ditch, but nobody wants to hang out, in that ditch. Nobody wants to be under the bridge. Nobody wants to share a friendly crack pipe with the next idiot, okay? Nobody wants to smell foot and booty in a shelter. When you get there and you smell all those smells, it's not like walking into a restaurant where you're smelling the food and good cheeses and everything. You walk in the shelter, you're going to smell foot and booty. Is that what you want? Some of you want to learn the hard way, and you'll call me. Well, I didn't take your advice. I wanted to be a good, honest Christian woman, and now you're living in the ditch. You did it to yourself because you couldn't open your eardrums. I've got to tell you guys, you got to stop doing that. And then my job's real hard. So then you call me back. Oh, well, I had to sell everything. They put me on the street. All I've got is one flip-flop left. Can you help me? Well, now you just made the whole case a gigantic pain in the ass for me. We talked a month ago while you still actually had everything, and I could have saved you. See my point? Please don't, guys. We have got to work together. And the main thing is, you see how bold I'm being about things? I'm not insulting anybody. If it hurts your ears to hear the truth, man, you're in for a wild ride. If you think I'm condescending, straightforward, and honest, imagine the people at the shelter, how they're going to talk to you. Trust me, roaches get treated better at a shelter. Okay? This housing authority people that get hammered by phone calls and emails for condescending, delusional people all day. Do you think they're going to be your friend? No. Look, you've got one friend in this deal, yourself and me, or anybody else that's in my industry that really wants to help you. So I would encourage you guys, look, you spend more on beer and cigarettes and Starbucks than y'all willing to invest in your own option to get out of a housing crisis. I will lady, oh, well, that's $60 just too much. Well, how did you end up getting homeless, lady? And then she started to discuss her shoe collection with me. I got to tell you, I was a little upset. And men do the same thing with the tools. But anyways, let's go into some questions here because I don't feel like I'm being productive. I feel like I'm really just complaining with y'all guys because I'm a little bit irritated about that. But I can save a lot more people if y'all just let me do it. Let me do my job. Seriously, just let me do it. Stop fighting me over this. All right. Diana, I filled out a Section 8 application in a few different cities. Diane, that's a smart move. So what you're doing right there is you're testing, and that's a good thing. So when you start testing and sampling different counties, what you're doing is you're learning at a pace like I do. I call it a game of bingo. You're putting out multiple applications. You try to give the very best answers you can, and you're hoping that one will call. When you multiply those efforts at the level I do, it gets very serious. Let me give you an example of how you can exploit a weak housing authority. Housing authorities have a tendency around the nation to operate under their own policies. Okay. So if I get a client says, hey, I don't know what to do, but I'm willing to move anywhere. I'll target 10, 15 county housing authorities. So I got 15 housing authorities all lined up. Now I call housing authority number one. I compel them under federal law to give me their number. In other words, I want to know how long the waiting list is and for what reasons are they going to give the vouchers to the 200 people. So there's 1,000 people in the county. They're going to give out 200. I compel them under federal law to tell me what reasons. They go, well, Jay, we got 200 vouchers. So we're going to give out 180 vouchers to people that are just simply low income, but there's a big list. That's most of the list. But we've got 20 vouchers we're going to give out to people that are senior and have domestic violence. The only problem is, Jay, we haven't found anybody with that problem. Do you know what I'm going to send you to be that day? You see my point? You match the plot in the course of the housing authority. Once I learn what the weakness is, where they've got a lot of money but don't have the right kind of applicants to get special funding from them, it's what they call special use voucher. Once I know there's a lot of money collecting dust, but there's no real good applicants for it, guess what you're going to be that day when I hammer the hell out of them with open public federal requests. You're going to be that exact victim I need you to be, and that's what I do. I go after a bunch of housing authorities that way. They know precisely what I'm doing. I'm probing for weaknesses. You combine that with having the right answers and knowing what they're looking for as answers. And when you see my point, so I know what I'm doing. That just proved it right there emphatically. Now, it's not as easy a system as you might think. It does take time to do so, but I can assure you, as the day is long, when you practice that for long enough, I'm very systematic. It doesn't take me long to go and ravish a state. In other words, I will exploit any housing authority I find a weakness in. Am I violating any federal law? Absolutely not. Fair game. Fair game. They fucked up. I found the fuck up. It's open. That's it. Maybe it's only good for a small window, but that's what it is. What do you think attorneys do when they go to court? You think those attorneys are good, honest Christian men? Huh? Doing that? They're there looking for any kind of hole in the law they can get to get their client off. I just do it in a different way. So when you watch Netflix and you see that guy, Better Call Saul, you got a housing crisis, you better call Jay. I'm not joking. You can call me or you can call that other. They got lots of people on YouTube that like to talk about Section 8. Their recommendation is you go buy a $38 pizza and go make friends with the witch at the housing authority. All kinds of ridiculous bullshit people give advice on YouTube about. They've never saved a single person off the street. My reputation is longer than a toilet paper company. I've proven it so many times I don't even think about it anymore. Do I have failure rates? Absolutely. 7% of the time I fail. A good con artist, he's always got a perfect record. That's what a lot of people do on YouTube. They pretend to be things they're not. And of course, they have a flawless reputation. They have no failure rate. They'll never admit what I just admit. I have a 7% failure rate. You accept that when you when you pay to consult with me. That is the expectation that 7% of the time I'm going to fail. I'm either going to fail because you have a terrible case, or you do something that's not supposed to happen, or maybe I'm not having my best day. But if you can accept those odds at 93%, then by all means. But I'm not going to sit there straight face lie to anybody and say, "Oh yeah, I'm walking on water today. I've never had a client now get a voucher and all this other garbage." No, of course I fail. I'm human. But I got to tell you, this year's been pretty good to me, and it has been good for my clients. And I'd say, probably about a handful of people have failed to get what they need. But there's a limit. There's always a limit. Anyways, when I call around to different counties, do I ask for help because I'm homeless or ask for help to apply? Look, Justin, you're going to want to call COC and you're going to find a coordinated entry location and take the ESPA data if that's applicable to your state. If it's not, it'd be a COC test. Monette Jenkins says, I love a man that knows his shit. Well, hey, you're really going to love me, Monette, because I not only know my shit, I actually talk it on YouTube. So that's just a matter of competence. I'm waiting for y'all to correct me. If y'all catch me in a little boo-boo where I'm lying, then please let me know. If I'm just bald-faced lying, please, anybody, I told you, I gave y'all a link to the reviews. Go in there and just tell him, hey, look, he's crazy. He's just stealing everybody's money. He's running the world's best scam for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? If it's like that, please do. I've never once had any problems all these years. Okay? I've been around then, and I'll always be around for as long as I can do it, anyways. Because that'll be how I'm going to end my life, is trying to help people get what they need. So, anyways, let's move on. Jay, I'm in SF Bay. Hey, man, I love San Francisco. By the way, I used to live there. Was actually even homeless there a long time ago. Let's see if I can remember. I lived in an SRO, a single room occupancy, and I lived in, if I can remember correctly, what was it? It was close to Halstead, I believe. I can't remember it, but I remember one thing about San Francisco. It was expensive. Everything was so expensive, but it was nice, and nobody really has yards there. That was interesting. If you want to see grass, you kind of have to go to the park. And I love that it was very international. You got to see people from other places. It was like visiting with people from around the world. I enjoyed that. That's why it always leaves me such a dilemma when people are racist and bigots. They would hate San Francisco. Wouldn't you? I would think most people would enjoy meeting people from around the world. Why would you only want to be around your own color and type all the time? Who sees life in black and white except for lunatics? You got to learn to experience the world. So that's why racists don't travel, because they can't handle the world. Well, they're going to go to heaven and everybody's the wrong color. What's going to happen then? Huh? That's I can't stand racists and bigots. Anyways, let's move on. No, not one flip flop. You're right, Annie Sauce. But some of you guys are close to just having that one flip flop left. I told you about cruising through the ditch with one flip flop. You got to get your housing situation straightened out. Besides LA County, what county should I look? Look, William, I'm thinking. I have talked with the housing authority in Kern County, Riverside, and up in that area, and we dealt with them personally. I've a lot of big landlords over there, and their system's pretty good. Look, guys, if you're near LA and Orange, I would say that we need to get you a little bit north of that. Anytime you can get farther than the bus line runs, when you cut off the stream of homeless people traveling, that's when the counties become less compounded. So you'll go from a 200,000 list to waiting lists that are normal, 4,000 and 5,000 people. And when you're at about 5,000, you're talking about an 8-month or to a year wait. And that's just on housing authorities. On COC, regardless, 35 to 60 days. So there are solutions, guys, as long as you're willing to listen and you're willing to move. Look, you live in California, there's always palm trees and beach water. You can enjoy that without having to live in LA. Okay. Now I realize if you have a job there and you have family there, it may be the case. Well, here's the deal. How about taking 1 year of your life, 1 year, go live somewhere you don't want to live, go up north another hour to a couple counties over, live for a year, get through that, and then you can port back in safely when it's not a housing crisis. That's the point. I'm not asking anybody to pack the whole family up permanently, leave the state, or go over 10 counties forever. I'm saying make a year sacrifice to get a voucher easier in a small county. When you complete your 12-month lease and you've met your HAP contract, I'll port you right back into the center of madness if that's what you want. But right now, guys, it is a pandemic. It is a housing crisis. It is a housing shortage. It is an eviction crisis. Every kind of crisis possible. And then it's all the epicenter of all of that is LA. So yeah, we have to get you as far away as we can, and we got to play every trick in the book to make it work. So it does work. And it seems like you're willing. If you're willing to do that, then I'm willing to work with you. But if your only request is, hey man, I'd like to get an apartment in a city where there's none left, then no, I won't. I'm not going to have you burn your money like that. You'd be wasting your time with me. Okay. Jasmine Vic, you were so funny. I am in tears right now. Yes. Well, I tend to be comical. I think, a lot of people are a little bit shocked at the fact that I tend to talk to you kind of like that bad uncle, the bad language, that come over to your house and it seems funny. I'm okay in doses. So a lot of you guys can handle me in a dose of seeing a video, half hour to an hour, because I tend to be very real. It's not something you're used to, especially on YouTube. Everybody likes to put on the clown makeup and their prettiest dress and talk bullshit, and I tend to come across this more as just being real. Look, this is a serious subject. Getting vouchers is serious, so you need to know you're dealing with a serious person. And if I have difficulty communicating to you in a very real way and in a way that everybody can understand, then how can you trust me? If all I did was wear Gucci suits on here and talk like some middle-aged white man that only had appeal to one class of people, would you believe him or would you believe me? That's what sets me apart from other people. You can sense the realism in what I'm telling you, because I'm not sitting here pretending. I don't choreograph any of this stuff. I'm sitting comfortably in my office and we're just talking for whatever it's worth, Moving on. I live in Michigan. So Daryl says, I live in Michigan. You live or either moved to Michigan recently and applied for Section 8 nearby. Michigan's a tough state, but it's not all tough. I think you could increase your efforts to a minimum of 5 more housing authorities if you believe it. Hey guys, let me give you another piece of advice about housing authorities. So you have counties everywhere. In every state, we have good counties, we have bad counties. You got people, you go over there and you're in Blue County. Let's just say it's Blue County. And in Blue County, everybody's dirt broke, like out there in West Virginia or something, Look, follow the trail of where people are wealthy. Pick the counties where there's the most money, because that's where people don't feel they can ever live. When I target counties that are wealthy, okay, and things are better, those are always housing authorities to kick out vouchers much quicker. Why? Because most people don't believe they can live there, and thus the vast majority of people don't apply. But they'll run down to the other county where all the other broke people are and get in line where the list is nuts, like LA. My point is, I pulled that tactic several times in California. And in one county, I was able to get a voucher for a lady in 6 days. Why? Because nobody had called or applied in the housing authority in 9 months. You see my point? They did such an excellent job of making their little county so unappealing, nobody ever bothered. So when somebody actually had to turn the light bulbs on and earn their paycheck, oh, we got an application. It's been 8 months. Didn't even think anybody knew we existed. That lady got a voucher 6 days. I'm not going to mention the county because I thought these people were going to fall to pieces once they found out who was going to go over there and live. Okay? I think you'll understand what I'm saying. That's just how shady some of these counties are. They want it to be all one color. Stuff like that. Craziness. We live in a time and age where people tend to be more enlightened, but apparently some parts of this country, people are not enlightened. They act like a bunch of devils. So, anyways. Let's see. Gail Resources, good to see you. That girl, have you helped anyone in Hawaii? Man, let me tell you all about the story about Hawaii. So this brings back an old client, and she was in Chicago, and she was in a neighborhood, and I'm not going to mention a specific neighborhood. Let's just say that gunshots in the middle of the night was a common thing, and gang members often ran the lower community. A lot of people, property owners that bought properties in that neighborhood, ended up too scared to even go on their own property. That's where she was living. She called me one day. She said, Jay, I don't know what to do. I need to move. And then she explained to me, well, look, I don't have money now, never have, and never will. I said, well, here's a novel idea. If you know that you're going to be broke and not much money is ever going to come to you, that you're at the end stage of life of retirement, let me tell you something you didn't know. You can be broke anywhere. And guess where I ported that lady? She now lives in Honolulu. There are no gunshots. There are no gang members. And she's able to access the beach. She's happily broke on a beach. Do you see the stupidity of some of you guys? living in the hood, living in the trailer park, living out in the backwoods. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to even live that way. I could have sent you down there to a tropical island, but a lot of you just love it. You like to see Sally and Unit A, B. She's turning tricks. Bob and one C. He smoked crack every morning, early in the morning on the porch, and y'all enjoy living by shit like that. Look, I can send you to better places. We could port you across the nation if you want. So yeah, to answer your question, look, uh, Honolulu in Hawaii, I would say my client average is around 54 for there. It's not always particularly easy, but Hawaii temporarily opened their housing authorities and so on to give vouchers, and they do favor the Pacific Islanders. They're there, but yes, I have dealt with clients sending them there and also porting them there, and I would say that's been nothing but a success. It is expensive, just like San Francisco, but to be frank, anybody that's low income that knows how to manage their money, they can live anywhere. That's why I said if we ever had a war and the country was devastated, the people that would suffer the most would be the people who had the most money. Because people that are low income, they already know how to survive adversity. They already know how to make something out of nothing, and they would be hardly affected by that in our country. It's all our middle class people that would flip out when they figure out Starbucks is not open and we have no power. So I have a lot of faith. Some of the toughest people I know are low income, and let me tell you something: they can survive anything. I've seen it. So I do admire that one quality. NBTB Live. How can a senior get a voucher conversion from a nursing home to a community? Well, that's a little bit more complex, to be honest with you. So when you're dealing with nursing homes, there's a reason why you're there, okay? And so we need to establish why you're there and why Medicaid or Medicare, which is funding that, or possibly another nonprofit. So we need to establish a case with you to find out why. And then from there, see whether or not you do, in fact, it doesn't sound like you have a voucher at all. So then you would have to enter the system as a voucher holder, and you would need to be able, the determination would need to be made that you're able or capable of leaving the nursing home to do that. So there's a reason why you're in assisted care or a nursing home. And so we need to figure out whether or not you're capable of doing those things on your own. So I would need to talk to you about that. It's a little bit too personal for YouTube. Okay. Sonia, nice haircut, Jay. Hey, man, I'm almost at the point where I'm going to get highlights. I got to get this stuff a little bit longer. And then, well, I can't get rid of the white. So y'all know I'm going to be an old, salty, I'm going to be a white man with salty hair, salt and pepper. I'm already ready for that. I'm kind of glad it's white rather than gray. I didn't want to be an old gray-haired man, so I'm okay with salt and pepper. So, yep, I'm enjoying the haircut. I'm going to add a little bit of a few highlights, try to cheat life a little bit, make people maybe think I'm a little bit younger. Jacqueline Jack, you said that getting housing in Florida is insane. I'm homeless in Florida. Any suggestions? Well, I would suggest that Florida is a difficult state for a lot of reasons, and especially over funding. But it's not impossible. I don't want you to compare Florida to California. So Florida does have its problems. It takes a little bit longer bureaucratically to get things done for housing, but it's not impossible. I would also want to know more specifically about what areas of Florida, whether you're near a big metropolitan area or not. So the possibility is if we do COC around 30 to 35 days, up to 90 on the voucher side, it could be a little bit longer. So it has more to do about politics in that state than anything. That's why it's so far behind with that. Kathy K, hi. How are you? Good to see you. So you're at Clearwater Beach. It's not a bad area, actually. Jasmine says she wants to go to Hawaii. I don't blame you, Jazzy, wanting to go there. I'd like to go to there too, but you know what? I don't really want to pay for a $25 cheeseburger either. Anybody from Hawaii can tell me how much things cost out there, and I'll think about it. But I hear it's a lot like San Francisco. That's a big price to pay, especially if you're on a fixed income. But traveling there for the beach, that'd be fantastic. Jacqueline Jack, I'm extremely willing to move to any island as well. I don't blame you, Jacqueline. I do not blame you. Uh, might have a Section 8 party and bring everybody down to Hawaii. Heather Elizabeth, I have a voucher. Can I port to another states? Heather or Miss Elizabeth, I'd like to tell you that that is a possibility if you have successfully had the voucher 12 months and you completed your lease. And there are other things that are involved in that, where you would be speaking with your housing specialist there, giving notice to vacate on good terms. You've met your HAP contract rules, and that you have picked a county, city, and state where they're actually willing to bill or absorb, and they're agreed to that. And in addition to that, we need to know that there is actual available housing that's stable there, that cannot just receive you when they know that they have a housing crisis. So the answer is that yes, quite possibly, but it can be a bit complicated. Trust me. That is one of the issues that most people consult with me about is the porting. A lot of people think, oh, it's just a few phone calls. No, it ain't. It's actually a 45-day ordeal sometimes. And it does depend. And here's the interesting part. When you take people with an attitude for one housing authority running it, and then you ask that attitude to call another housing authority in another place, and those people have attitudes, then you've got two sets of people with attitudes, both housing departments. It's going to be our way or the highway, hell or hot water. So it's actually kind of fun pitting one housing authority against the other. It's like a chicken fight. I like to wind them up real tight and hope they just kind of explode. I'm just joking about that, but it has crossed my mind to, you know what I'm saying? Uh, set them, kind of set them on fire and see what happens. Because y'all know how I feel about housing authorities. So, but again, there are good housing authority employees and good housing authorities. It's just not from any of the places we've been talking about. Great information today. Lots of the ladies I'm helping. It's good to hear, Gail. Alina, what is your client success rate experience with Oregon housing? My experience rate or success rate in the state of Oregon right now is 100% over the last 20 years, and I don't have any failure rate in that state. Oregon and Washington, my record is spotless. There was one complication, but I'm not entitled to really to disclose that. Other than that, that's it. Now, must tell you, if you want to talk about experience, Alina, you would want to visit in the bottom of this video. You can go to my website. It explains in high detail what I do, how long I've been doing it, and how many people that I've rescued and helped with many issues. I've also dealt with landlords. And if I valued all the properties together and all the landlords, it would be a total sum of over 100 million in properties. I don't own the properties. I'm just saying that I have personally oversaw the number of people that go in there. I have one landlord who is aiming for 10,000 units. Some of those properties are $20 and $30 million. And each one of those properties contains or needed my review for each client. That would be 500 clients. Then you multiply that by 20. And so, yeah, my reach around this country is very wide. I have more than 100 attorneys across the nation that deal in family court that consult with me. In addition to that, I can name hundreds, if not more, of investment firms, including real estate agents, real estate brokers, and developers. On that note, it keeps going. So I would say that on a scale of reputation, I have one that simply can't even be beat, and I don't think anybody even comes close. You're welcome to hire the second or third best, but that would be a lot like you hiring them from McDonald's. They really don't know anything. So I hope that answered your question. Erica, how about New York? New York is not impossible anymore. They're getting better. I'm very proud of my New Yorkers. Um, it's a tough market out there, but it's much worse in many places. So New York is definitely a possibility. But look, don't start with that Queens, Bronx, and Manhattan. That is tough out there. Okay, you have more than 60 social organizations. You have multitudes of housing authorities. So what I'm going to tell you is New York is not impossible, but it is convoluted. And the city is heavily involved in the housing authority. There you have also a tremendous number of laws at the state and county level that I have to read about constantly to keep up. So New York's a possibility. I try to guide people in a more disciplined way to avoid a lot of the politicking of the housing authorities and some of the rules out there. But I don't really know what you would be actually consulting with me about specifically. I don't know the tone or the scope of it. But I would say that I don't really have any problem with New York. A lot of people, New York represents 40% of my clients. I don't really have any complaints out there. I've never had a New Yorker accuse me of not getting the job done. Can't think of a single case. I can think of people having to wait too long and moaning and bitching about that. But oh well, that's life. Get ready. When you go to the doctor, don't you wait. You go to get the ID. Look, when you go to driver's license department, don't you wait. So why the hell would it be any different with me? So that's the thing. It's a process. Process take time. So if that would be the only thing I might disappoint you on, is the fact that it's going to take time. Moving on. There's Betty nightmare with the rental assistance program that's getting me evicted. Yeah. Well, I help people earlier in the year with the rental assistance stuff. It really doesn't have anything to do with Section 8 or housing. I mean, obviously it does pay your rent, but I mean that's regulated by the feds and the Treasury Department. It's dispersed through the state, which then allocates the funds to counties, and then they make whatever special rules they want, pick and choose who they want to give the money. They have a lot of rules behind it, and then you have to figure it out. I got involved temporarily for clients for about 90 days. I don't fool with that anymore because now it's just turned into a big hustle. Moving on, Jacqueline. Thank you. Did you see my question about Marin County, California? I'm sorry, Jacqueline, I didn't. Why don't you shoot me an email about that? Because I am technically going to be wrapping this video up. I've been on about an hour. My voice is starting to give a little bit. TT says, you look so healthy. Thank you. Wait till I hit that. I'm going to get a tan eventually. But it's getting better, guys. Y'all used to watch me. I look like somebody had been eating pie pies for about 5 years straight, sweating in my videos. So things are getting better. I had to quit working 12 and 18 hours a day. I had to quit taking consults 7 days a week. I had to start eating right, and I had to start taking medications. I put everybody before me, and it almost killed me. And let me tell you something. A lot of guys, you talk about working hours. Getting up at 4 in the morning, going to bed at 10 at night, and doing that for a year is not a joke. Yeah, I'm not making floors. I'm not chipping concrete. I'm not pouring concrete. I'm not sweating over it. But the body does not interpret it any different when you're working extreme hours. And I did that, and it damn near ruined me. I don't do that anymore. I take a select number of clients over the days that I'm open, and it's changed for me. I have a whole nother company. This is not the only thing I do. I do this to help people. This is not how I pay my bills. nobody wakes up one day and wants to be a Section 8 consultant. I do this because I'm exceptionally good at it. I am the best in the nation. I'm certain of that. But it's not my job. I don't actually pay my bills with this stuff. Moving on. Does overcrowding in Section 8 apartment considered an emergency? Well, a lot of things are, but the thing about that is anytime you have a group or communal living, apartments and so on, where you have floods, fires, lack of maintenance and all that determination must be made by the city. That must be turned over and the opportunity to deal with. See, a lot of you guys have a problem, but they have not had time to address, and the city has to get involved. So it's a process. You can accelerate it by filing claim, but the problem is rarely do communities of people all see things the same way. So if you and the neighbors are not going to get together and actually build a case with real evidence, bitching and moaning is not a case. You have to have evidence. You have to have proof, not phone conversations, email, letters, and certified mail, the notice of intent for maintenance requests and so on, and a trail of that, not for 30 minutes, not for 30 days, but it has to go on for at least a couple of months. Then you have a case which we can deal with. So yes and no. Jennifer Hamilton, I was thinking the same thing about Jay. Seems amazing. I appreciate that, Jennifer. I don't know if I'm amazing. I'm just little old me, Cajun man from Baton Rouge, living in Houston, trying to get folks out the ditch with one flip flop into housing. Try to keep it interesting, keep it functional. Erica says thanks. Arthur Dennis, how can I get in touch with you? Because I have a question. All right, guys, I'm going to post the link again for booking consults. In the booking software is a phone number and an email. I'm not suggesting anybody spend their hard-earned money on me. If you don't want to do it yourself, that's what you hire me to do it for, okay? When you don't want to build a house to live in, then you call who? The carpenter. When you don't want to do all the bullshit with the housing authority, then who do you call? You call Jay, all right? Nobody's going to work for free. I'm letting you guys know that I don't work for free. And everybody knows that. I'm just kind of saying that in an interesting way. All right, so that's the link. All right, guys, look, it's been over an hour. I think, how much time we got now? I know we are over an hour. I can't see the time just yet. It's been, an hour and 29 minutes. So we're going to wrap this up. I've enjoyed talking with you. Y'all take the advice however you'd like. And for those of you that believe that I can help you, then let's do that. For those that want to suffer a little longer, then Lessons are always learned. Life's full of valuable lessons. Look at the one I learned for 10 years before I got where I am today. People will go through a lot of pain, a hurt, and think they can do it on their own. We can't always be good at everything. I'm good at this. I'm terrible at a lot of things, okay? But it doesn't mean I'm going to sit around for 10 years and try to figure out I can't become a good painter. Do what you're good at, folks. If your housing standing in your way, then find the best of the best and get them to help you. Now, that just happens to be me, but I'm just as an example. So, anyways, let's close this out, guys. The next live video will be in 1 to 2, maybe 3 days, and then we'll talk about something different that's important to everybody. And as I close, y'all welcome to check out the new website, www.thehoustonrockshop.com for those who like crystals, gems, minerals, energy crystals, so on. I got about 9 metric tons. Been slowly rolling that on the website. The website is now developed. There are no products in there yet, but if that is something you're also interested in, we're rolling that out officially now. And I'll be doing a lot of live videos, something that I actually enjoy as immensely as this. I hope it's not going to be too much on me doing both. All right. I've been just always seeing y'all. You'll enjoy your afternoon. All right. Bye bye.